You have questions? We have answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box with your host, Miss Lindsay Schiss.
Welcome back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box. We are here to answer your tough questions, so ask away. We really do love listener questions. It's the way our podcast is going, and why we're here is really to get your questions and to get expert advice. And today I have with me Whitney Evans. Whitney, thanks for being here.
You bet.
And today, this is an interesting question. I actually really appreciated it, Whitney, because we're in the throes of summer. We're in the throes of reunions and get-togethers and barbecues. And while that can be really awesome, it can actually be really difficult as well.
For sure.
And this question, I think, is indicative of that. So we'll jump right in. The question is, I recently went to a family reunion and got asked questions about my husband. We are having difficulty and I didn't want to answer the questions, but I felt so uncomfortable I did anyways. So what do I do when someone asks me a question I am not prepared to answer?
Right?
We have all been there, haven't we?
We can all pause on that and need to take a collective deep breath.
Right.
We know what that feels like, to be caught off guard, to be maybe caught in a corner, and we don't know how to respond.
Absolutely. So what do we do? Because again, you don't want to make the person uncomfortable. You don't want them to feel uncomfortable. And often as people pleasers or recovering people pleasers, I often say, we go, oh, I'll just maybe answer it I'll just answer it, or I'll skirt around it. But, that feels yucky too.
For sure.
And you don't want to make them uncomfortable. You don't want to feel uncomfortable. So what do you do? What are your thoughts?
Well, let's first start just by defining this thing. Mm-hmm. This is a boundary issue.
Okay.
This one is particularly what I call a talking boundary. So there's 5 general types of boundaries. 4 of these have been identified and spoken widely about by Pia Melody. For those of you who know her work, Dr. Vicki Tidwell Palmer has added a 5th to these boundaries. And I'd love to just name them so that we can differentiate boundaries and why this one is particular.
Okay, perfect.
Number 1, physical boundaries. Number 2, sexual boundaries. These 2 are non-negotiable. We get to decide as autonomous adults where our body is, what it's doing at all times. Number 3, listening boundaries. Just because somebody is saying something doesn't mean we have to take that on as our truth. It's okay to have boundaries and filters around what we're listening to. Number 4 is talking boundaries. Right? Again, we get to have a filter around what we say. And number 5 is a personal energy boundary. Just because somebody has a particular personal energy doesn't mean that we have to take that on as our personal energy. We get to have boundaries there. So, talking boundaries.
This is a talking boundary.
This is where we are.
Yep.
Right? So, boundaries happen on a spectrum with extremes on both sides. So, if we're thinking about a talking boundary, far end of that spectrum would be completely closed off, not saying anything, not talking at all, in such a way that nobody knows what's going on in our heart, what's going on in our mind. We're just completely shut down. The opposite end of that spectrum is no filter. Right. We're saying everything that we're thinking. We're saying everything that we're feeling, spilling it all, which is boundaryless. So what we're looking for here is more of a healthy middle. What's in between both extremes in regards to talking boundaries. Any questions about that?
Well, I do, because I love the idea of, okay, I don't have to spill the beans. I don't have to say everything, and I don't have to keep completely silent. But how do I honor myself?
For sure.
And honor this other person too? Because I'm sure this person at this reunion was not trying to cause trouble or was not trying to be insensitive. Yeah. And yet, how do you hold space for where they're at, and also honor yourself? Because I think sometimes we sell out one or the other.
One or the other. We usually lean toward one side or the other when we are unprepared, when we're taken off guard, when we have an emotional moment.
Yes,
with it.
absolutely.
Our amygdala takes over and we lose access to our prefrontal cortex, that
Which is
frontal lobe where we
yes,
have reasoning
executive
and
functioning.
logic and executive functioning.
Yep.
So I love that we're talking about this today, especially now. Like you said, a lot of this is going on this summer. I hear this question in my office year round,
I do too.
particularly now. So because we're talking about it today, hopefully this gives an opportunity for individuals to be a little bit prepared what they're facing when they go to certain activities or when they're interacting with other people. So what I love to do, what I love to suggest is what I call power phrases. And these are some rehearsed, memorized, literally memorized phrases that we can practice speaking ahead of time. The more we practice what we prefer to say, the more access we will have to these words in the moment that the emotion hits.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's just stop right there. I love that idea of power phrases that are pre-rehearsed and actually they're memorized.
Yeah.
And why is that helpful? Because when you get hit and you're hit and it comes from left field and you're like, whoa, I didn't expect that. Then we sometimes don't act the way we want to. Absolutely. We don't show up in our boundaries.
We default to the neural pathway that's already in our brain, which, like you said, could be people pleasing. I'm just going to go ahead and say everything that I don't want to say just so I don't make this person feel bad. Well, then we feel awful later because we've broken and violated our own boundary.
Yes.
Right? So think about it in terms of a stage performer, for example, right? Actors, they rehearse their lines over and over and over and over. Not because they're going to say it like a robot when they get on stage, but when they get on stage, the lights turn on, the audience is there, they have an emotional experience. And the more they've rehearsed, the more they have access to those words.
Nice.
So one example of a power phrase in this circumstance is this. Maybe sometime we could talk about that. It is short, it is simple, and it accomplishes two things. Number one, it's telling the truth. You're leaving space for the reality that there may come a time when you and I can talk about this thing. It's also accomplishing a second goal. It's giving a clear implication that right now is not the time.
Yeah.
So it's honoring the relationship. It's also honoring the individual who's not yet ready to talk.
Maybe there will come a time when we can talk about that.
Maybe sometime we can talk about that. Or maybe there will come a time we can talk about that. Or perhaps we can talk about that sometime, right? Of course, put it into your words, make it your style.
Yeah.
That phrase works anytime, anywhere when you're caught off guard. Right? It could happen at a family reunion. It could happen at lunch with your girlfriends from high school that you haven't seen. It could happen in the hallway at church when somebody approaches you and asks you a question that you weren't anticipating.
I love that because, again, it's honoring the relationship, but honoring self. And I think often we say, oh, I've got to be in one camp or the other. Yeah. I either sell myself out and it's and make them comfortable, or I do the opposite. I make myself comfortable and then the relationship suffers. But here you're saying, actually, no. And I love that idea. Maybe there's a time we can talk about that. Yeah. Right? And it's very clear that right now is not that time.
It's not that time.
So we will do that possibly another time. And it may never be that time. And that's okay as well.
You're still saying a truth.
Yes.
That maybe that time will happen. It could be when pigs fly, but maybe it will happen.
Maybe. Yeah. But we're not committing to anything. Yeah. And it really, I would imagine, dissolves that.
It softens the tension in that moment.
Yes.
First of all, in ourselves. It gives ourselves permission to maintain our own boundary, to maintain that sense of self, to meet our needs, and it can maintain
the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I hear in that? And I talk about this, the power of the pause. The power, yes. We've heard that a lot, right? Yes. And I always think about it as a comma, like just put a comma in that. Put a comma. That's what that is.
Well, and I get often asked that question as well. Well, what right? Take a breath.
Yep.
Before you answer anything, really anytime, this is a helpful skill. Just take a breath.
Totally.
Harness that power of a pause and then proceed.
Yep. And we often need that, right? To get our heart rate calmed back down, to get our brain back online. We just need a moment to do that. And give ourselves that. We can take a breath every time.
For sure.
Excellent. So now we've talked about the power phrases. Then you've given us a really excellent one. What else would you say when we're talking about that talking boundary that's helpful when this listener was caught off guard?
For sure. So sometimes when we say that, maybe sometime we can talk about this, that other person may struggle to hear us. They may struggle to listen, and they may struggle to respect the boundary that we've just established. They may come back to us with something like, well, how come we can't talk about it now? Or why won't you tell me? Or is there something you're hiding? Skill number 2.
I was going to say, and what do we do with that? Or get defensive. Well, oh, that sounds like you're trying to hide something. Or
for sure.
What's wrong? You don't trust me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the great thing. You just repeat the same phrase. Maybe sometime we can talk about that.
I like that. So we're not trying to justify, to meet their discomfort.
We don't need to over-explain. We don't need to defend. We don't need to, especially at this point when they're not respecting our boundary, we don't need to tend to the discomfort that they may be experiencing over there on their side of the street.
Okay, that's really important.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we're so uncomfortable with other people's discomfort.
Absolutely.
That then we start acting not in our integrity.
That is when we start violating our own boundaries.
Exactly.
When we're trying to rescue somebody from the discomfort of our boundary. We have a right to boundaries. In essence, we're saying, this is what it takes to be in a relationship with me right now.
So why is that? Why is it, why do we do that? Why?
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Why?
A lot of the times it's because it's what we've been taught. It's what has been modeled to us. It's what we've interpreted sometimes. Maybe someone has never said that explicitly to us, but oftentimes we'll interpret that it's our job to make sure that other people are comfortable and okay. And we also will do that because I'm not okay with somebody else's discomfort.
Totally.
So I try to ease their discomfort so that I can feel okay.
By the way, I think that's a lot of it. I think
for sure.
We're not comfortable watching someone else be uncomfortable, right?
For sure.
We've talked about that with grief, with other things. Like we try to manage it and make it, but people just allowing others to sit in their discomfort makes us uncomfortable.
It does make us uncomfortable. Yes. And practicing trusting ourselves to tolerate that discomfort is very empowering.
Yes, I love that.
And it's also a gift to the other person. We're allowing them and we're trusting them to figure out their discomfort.
Yeah, and here's the other piece too. It's actually not your job to take care of their discomfort. No. That's their job.
Yep.
And that's not, you're not in your lane when you're trying to do that, right?
Yep, 100%.
Let them take care of it.
For sure.
But boy, again, that is easier said than done because often, like you said, we have been modeled, we have seen it modeled, and then we've practiced it on our own, trying to make people comfortable, right? I would say I am a recovering people pleaser, that I, for so many years, was like, your discomfort is more important than my discomfort. So I'm going to sell myself out all the time to make sure you're okay and you're comfortable.
100%.
Not honoring myself in the process. And I feel like it has not been that many years, to be really honest, where I've said, no, my discomfort matters equally to your discomfort.
Yep.
So, and it's not mine's more than yours is more than mine.
No.
But that requires greater skill than what I was used to using.
For sure. There's some nuance to that. It's okay for somebody's needs to go ahead of ours sometimes, for them to take the first turn. It's not okay for other people's needs or perceived needs to go instead of ours.
That's the key. It's not somebody else's needs are instead of my needs or more important than mine. So mine just get flushed down the toilet.
Yeah.
It is both things can be true. Both needs matter.
Yeah.
And mine might be ahead sometimes and another person's might be ahead sometimes. It moves, but it doesn't mean one or the other. It's and.
And in this circumstance that we're talking about, my needs get to take the first turn. I'm not ready to talk about this.
Yes. And that's okay.
Maybe sometime we can talk about this.
I love that. Yeah. Excellent. So we do not need to be responsible for other people's discomfort. Period.
There you go.
I like that. Excellent.
Sure.
Anything else that feels really important that to talk about when it comes to speaking boundaries or talking boundaries?
Ooh, this could be a whole additional podcast. But just keeping in mind when you're communicating, keep in mind your values. Right? So when we're talking, we can pay attention to things like our tone, our volume. We're paying attention to the words that we're using. We're paying attention to facial expression, body language. All of those things are part of talking boundaries. And we want to keep our side of the street clean. We want to make sure that the tone with which we're speaking is something that we can feel comfortable with. Now, let me make a caveat here. I have been in a couple sessions, for example, where one of the partners has said, "You're yelling at me. Stop yelling at me." And I'm actually hearing the partner speak in a tone that sounds very similar to mine now, or maybe even softer than mine is now. So just because somebody else is telling you and that you are talking a certain way, again, doesn't necessarily mean that you are. It's important to be introspective, be willing to pay attention to self-awareness. How are we really talking? Is our tone appropriate? Is it civil? Are the words that we are using appropriate? If we're calling names, if we are disparaging individuals, we're now violating our own talking boundaries.
I love that. And you're not living in your values, most likely.
For
right?
sure.
You know, one thing that you said, and it's interesting, just last night I had a discussion with my daughter about buying a new car, and I had some concerns about the car that she was looking at buying, and I started to talk about it, and I could, and the interesting thing is, I thought I was being very loving, and she said, "Oh, you're like really fired up about this." I could see in her face as we continued to talk that she started to disengage, and actually I thought, she seems like really sad, and she goes, "Well, you're kind of like really intense about this." And I thought, no, I'm not. And then I took a minute and I checked my body, and I could feel my heart racing.
Yeah.
And I could feel like that I was actually, and it was interesting because I wasn't even intending to, but there has been some history with cars with her.
There you
and
go.
in our family that it was bringing up inside of me.
No wonder.
Right? But I didn't even intend for it to happen.
Yeah.
I had no intention but to come, and my effort to talk to her it was loving, I felt like. But then all of a sudden she said, "You're kind of coming at me." And I thought, no, I'm not. And then I took a moment and thought, oh, yes, I am. Right? I need to take a step back, take a breath, take a beat, and go, wait a minute, what is coming up for me? And it was very clear. There was some history here that I was experiencing while I was talking to her. Yeah. So again, we may not even intend to, but it may show up as we're having that discussion.
And you point out a really important key here, your willingness to take a minute to double check yourself, and be willing to take some feedback about how you're talking is impacting the other person.
And I'm going to be honest, like at first I was like, I am not. Like I'm not either. I'm actually telling you this out of love. Like this is maybe not the right car and whatever. And the truth is, I needed to take a beat. I needed to take a minute and check myself to make sure what was happening. And the truth was, she was right.
Yeah.
I had some activation that happened that I needed to just take a beat with.
Right.
So
both and you were feeling love. You're trying to help your daughter.
True.
And when it gets tangled up with some fear, some frustration, some anger that sounds like it was rooted in some previous stuff, for sure. Right. It can get tangled up. And oftentimes those emotions are what people see and hear in our words and in our body language.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And I would also add that I immediately wanted to be defensive. Like, are you kidding me? I'm actually looking out for you. I'm trying to help you here. And I had to take a minute, take a beat, and I got really honest about it. And I actually needed to step away from the conversation.
Yeah.
And then I got really clear, like, oh, actually, this is why and what's going on for me. And then I had to go clean it up and just say, I'm sorry. I did get, you're right. I kind of got intense about it. And I'm sorry. That's not what I was hoping for. That's not what I wanted in this conversation. And so I apologize. And let me explain to you why. I'm not defending why. I just am clear what was going on for me. And let me help you to understand, like, this is why I was showing up that way. It's not trying to justify it. I'm just trying to help you to understand what I now understand.
Love it.
Yeah.
another example of taking a pause, taking a breath,
just taking a breath.
Stepping away.
Excellent.
For sure.
Good.
Love it.
Whitney, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you feel like is important as we are talking about boundaries and maybe getting blindsided by questions that we're not anticipating?
For sure. Oh, I think it just goes without saying to remind ourselves that our opportunity in boundaries is to create safety for ourselves, and that it's our responsibility to identify where our values are, what we're ready to talk about, what we're not ready to talk about, and show up within those boundaries.
Excellent. I love that. I love the reminder of those 5 types of boundaries: physical, sexual, listening, talking, and personal energy. Excellent. I love kind of breaking those down and getting really clear about what they are. The power phrase is so great. Maybe we can talk about that another time, or whatever way you're going to say that. Such a great way to acknowledge the question, but be very clear that this is not the time, right? And then to keep your mind as you're talking about what your values are. Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up in this conversation in the world? And is this conversation indicative of that? Such a great reminder. And again, one last thing, it's not our job to make somebody else comfortable. We can be, and that's a practice that we need to work on, is being able to allow others to sit in their own discomfort. That's a hard one. But
Boy, isn't it?
I mean, I'm like, all of these are hard. Let's be honest.
For sure.
This is why we do this work,
sure.
right? Because it's hard. We're all working on it.
And just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy.
Amen. Amen. Just because it's simple
that's
doesn't...
a simple phrase
I was going to say...
that I proposed today, and it's not easy.
We need a bumper sticker of that, because that's actually fantastic. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. I could use that with a lot of things in my life. So Thank you so much,
You're
Whitney.
welcome.
That was excellent, and really appreciate that. I know this listener is not alone, that they have been asked questions that have blindsided them. I think we all have. So I hope this episode, again, was something that was valuable for you. I think, again, as I was saying, that this listener is not alone in feeling this way. And I certainly know I have been in that situation. I'm sure you have, Whitney, as well. So
Yes, you bet.
and it won't be the last time, by the way.
Exactly.
It will continue.
Exactly.
Whether it's
Keep practicing.
Exactly. We see this at the summer. I was going to say, I hear this a lot over the holidays too. And it's often at group gatherings.
Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Come on.
I mean, it just keeps that table, right? All the time it happens. So
For sure.
Well, we appreciate you listening, and rate and review. That helps us to grow and spread the word about our podcast, and hopefully help others. And that is our goal here. So we appreciate you listening. Until next time, take care.